everybody. Welcome back to What the Film. I'm your host, Logan Thompson, joined, as always, by Ethan Kaufman. Hey, hi, hello, everybody. Yeah, Ethan's not here today, everybody. This is a very sad episode for me. We just spent the past half an hour trying to figure out a way to record together, but it just did not work. He's on vacation right now with the most terrible and egregious Wi-Fi just in the world. So I am soloing it today, taking one for the team, if you will. We will be back next week on Thursday. That is right. We are going to be starting weekly episodes starting next week. This was a decision that we made last week because we're starting to go back to college and we don't want to be overwhelmed. And we are worried that if we keep doing these 2 episodes a week, it's just going to be a lot for us. These weekly episodes will essentially be a new form combination of what the 2 episodes have been. It's going to be taking this episode that we do here with box office and news and changing it to us each getting to pick one topic of news and one topic of box office to talk about. Then we talk about the new movies and then we just shift over to the game. So ideally that makes like a 10 to 15 minute episode or kind of like mini episode, and then the game for however long that is. So that with the movie tournaments is going to be some really long episodes, but that's okay. We plow through it. Anyways, let's kick off with Newsflash. We have Apple, who pulled Wolves out of theaters. They are also making a sequel to the film. So they expect Wolves to be successful, but then pulled it out of theaters. Like, they expect it to be successful enough to make a sequel, but pull it out of theaters because they don't think it'll be successful enough to do well in theaters. A very weird decision to be happening together, but this is the one streaming service where I do kind of get it because Apple has a lot of money, but at this point they need more like subscribers. They want some steady income from their streaming service that is not doing too well, and their theatrical releases have not been doing too well. And Wolves would probably be another theatrical disappointment. So what it seems like they're doing is that they're almost using the Brad Pitt F1 movie as a soft reset on their theatrical business, in terms of hoping that F1 does really well and kind of fixes their reputation, because you are remembered for your hits, not your misses. So if F1 is a hit, that would fix this weird reputation it almost feels like Apple has in terms of theatrical releases just not doing too well and people not wanting to go see them. I don't think people see, oh, it's an Apple film, I don't want to see it, but also every film they've made just has not done too well. So they just got to look into that more. I think they really need to make just a strong advertising campaign for F1. I think that's their other issue. Their advertising campaigns just haven't been too strong because they haven't had great films to make a good campaign for. I'd say up until Wolves. I think Wolves could have been a great advertising campaign, but they just didn't do it. And they don't have enough time to change that. On the other hand, you have Amazon, which I just thought was an interesting sort of contradiction, plotting to have 16 theatrical releases by 2027. Amazon, who people were mad about for putting Roadhouse on digital, they are now working on just really leaning into theatrical releases, which makes sense because it's direct revenue, and they have a streaming service that's doing well. So I'm glad that Amazon is going this route. And I do hope that one day Netflix goes this route, but that day is not today. The big piece of news, however, is D23. Disney had their whole big presentation with Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, Disney Animation, and just all of that. They announced so many different projects. I want to run through that. I want to talk about the ones that I am the most excited for, and also address the ones that Ethan was the most excited for. I kind of gave us a bit of a rule of thumb, which was to pick one movie that we are personally really excited for, one movie that we are excited for the box office of, if that makes sense, and then one TV show that we're excited for. So the movies that I picked were Tron Ares for box office, The reason why I picked it, I kind of cheated because I don't think it's necessarily going to be some big hit, but I'm just really curious about how Tron Ares will perform just because the Tron movies have not done too well, but it would be really cool to see this one do pretty well. I mean, they attached Jared Leto to it. We all know that Jared Leto is a huge box office draw. Then there was also the other thing that I picked, which I'm trying to find because I'm forgetting what it was. Oh, Hoppers. Hoppers. That is what I picked for my personal excitement. There's one still of this film. You can look it up online. And it looks like it just has that Spider-Verse-y style animation. It seems to be it looks different than what you expect from Pixar. So I'm very curious for how this movie is going to be. It's kind of a fun plot. Girl named Mabel who transforms into this robot beaver to infiltrate the animal kingdom. There's an evil mayor villain who is voiced by John Hamm. He's going to be hamming it up in that role. I mean, come on. And then there's the one still I was talking about. And it's just a new Pixar original film. I'm excited. I'm excited for Hoppers. I'm excited for Elio. The Pixar movie that Ethan picked out of everything was The Incredibles 3, however. And I am so glad that this is happening. We talked about the types of Pixar sequels they could be trying to make after the success of Inside Out 2, and I predicted The Incredibles 3. I'm going to take that to the grave because I feel like nobody was talking about that. Because with how much time it took to actually make The Incredibles 2, it seemed like we would never really get The Incredibles 3. But financially, it just made absolutely no sense for Pixar to not make a third Incredibles film. Brad Bird is mad. He's mad that Inside Out 2 took his crown, and he is coming back for it. And he is directing The Incredibles 3, by the way. Thank God. If he was not directing The Incredibles 3, I think it would be a bit harder to get excited about this film. And I'm also glad because this will most likely be the last Incredibles movie, just because the voice cast is starting to age out of these roles. We might get some spin-offs, but I think in terms of the Incredibles family, where it's parents and their kids, this is going to probably be the last of that we see. The TV show I picked, by the way, was Win or Lose. This is Pixar's first ever long-form TV series. Each episode is focusing on a different softball player on a softball team as they prepare to play in the state championship. I think it's a state championship. I didn't really see what kind of championship it was, but it was some sort of thing. The trailer looked pretty good. The animation looked really interesting. It's coming out on December 6th, and there's 8 episodes. So I'm excited. I mean, Pixar, I trust Pixar. I think I started to not necessarily lose faith, but just doubt my trust in Pixar, but it's back, and I'm excited. The other 2 movies Ethan picked, I think Zootopia 2 he picked for box office, I would guess. Ki Hai Kwan is joining the cast in that, and reptiles are going to be the focus of this film because of their shady past in Zootopia. He also picked Percy Jackson Season 2. I don't know why he picked Percy Jackson Season 2, but he did. Other projects that were talked about, Avatar, Fire, and Ash. It's going to be a huge hit. I mean, that would have been the obvious box office pick, but I just didn't want to pick the obvious box office pick. Also a movie called Monster Jam, a monster truck movie about the culture surrounding them. And Dwayne Johnson is involved in some sort of capacity. Definitely a producer, but maybe he'll also be the star of it. I don't know. It didn't seem clear during the D23 presentation, like if he was or not. There was also Mufasa. They have the second trailer for that. First trailer is out for Snow White. It does not look terrible, in my opinion. That might be a hot take. And also, I've just been thinking about it. Greta Gerwig is a writer on Snow White. I need to trust Greta a little bit here. I can't completely doubt Snow White, just in the same way that I can't completely doubt Mufasa, because Mufasa has Barry Jenkins and Snow White has Greta Gerwig. So I'm not counting Snow White out until I see it, and then if I think it's bad after I see it, then there you go. but I'll probably be a bit of a Snow White defender until that movie actually comes out. Lilo and Stitch remake, I think Stitch looks pretty good. That might be really the only positive of just another kind of bland Disney remake coming out, but at least they are not floundering Stitch. We also have already talked a lot about Marvel because of Comic Con, but they did talk about Marvel TV, Agatha coming out this September. I'm going to watch it. Why not? Might be good, might be bad. Who knows? Ironheart seems like sometime in 2025. I'm excited just because Ryan Coogler has some involvement with this show. That just is promising to me. I love Ryan Coogler. Daredevil Born Again, March 2025. Very excited for this. I saw a recording from the arena of the trailer for Daredevil Born Again, and it looks really good. So I'm excited. And that's another thing where, some people might be pessimistic. I'm going to be the optimist until it comes out. And then if it's bad after it comes out, then I'll join the pessimists. But for now, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm also optimistic about Skeleton Crew. Just seems kind of cool, like a coming of age TV show with Jude Law. And just look at the director lineup for Skeleton Crew. It's insane. Also, Andor Season 2 and 3 are both announced. Ben Mendelsohn is coming back to be Krennic. Both seasons are going to have 12 episodes each, and they span together over this 5-year timeline. I'm so excited for Andor. Then you also have Mandalorian and Grogu. It started filming a few weeks ago. Hoth might be a featured planet in this film. Zeb from Rebels made an appearance in the trailer. Babu Frick also made an appearance in the trailer. So I guess they're starting to try to connect this Mando side of the Star Wars galaxy with the sequels, and they're starting with Babu Frick because why not? They're making an Inside Out spin-off TV show called Dream Productions about how Riley's dreams are made. Great. Elio, Zoe Saldana has replaced America Ferrera in the cast due to scheduling conflicts with Ferrera. It's also keeping its summer 2025 release date, which is awesome. Also, they got new directors, so that could be a good sign. That could also be a bit of a worrisome sign because for an animated Pixar movie, it seems a little late to get new directors, but we'll see how that goes. Toy Story 5, I'm just interested in the plot here. It's toys competing with technology. That's a really good plot for a Toy Story movie, and I'm glad that this is the route that they're going. The one still of this film is, I think Bonnie is the little girl's name in the movie, under the covers with an iPad and all the toys just looking at her from on top of the bed. Just really interesting to me. Moana 2 second trailer came out. Looks fine. It's going to be a fun time. And Frozen 3, they announced that plus a fourth Frozen. They were like, we need 2 more films to dig into what we unveiled in the second one. So yeah, they just want to keep making billion-dollar movies. And the premise is going to focus around a floating city. So just to kind of conclude this segment here, does Disney seem to be going in the right direction? I think they are financially. I think a lot of these movies are going to be hits. Frozen 3 hit, Zootopia 2 hit, Moana 2 hit, Toy Story 5 absolute hit. Incredibles 3 going to be a huge hit. I think Mandalorian and Grogu, that's a little bit more risky. We'll see how that goes. I think most of the Marvel movies seem like they're going to be hits. Lilo and Stitch is going to be a hit. Tron Ares is a little risky, but will probably be fine. And then Snow White, Mufasa, and Avatar, those are all going to be huge, I bet. Monster Jam, that's the thing. Even though they also have the Freaky Friday sequel, but I haven't seen Freaky Friday, so it felt kind of weird to include that here because I just don't know what to say about a Freaky Friday sequel when I haven't seen the original. And that'll probably do well as well. But I do find it interesting that we have these individual projects as well that they announced, and I'm glad that they aren't only talking about IP-based films like Monster Jam. I'm weirdly kind of excited about just because it's random, but why not? I mean, it's Disney leaning into making these more original, probably inspirational type of films. I really dig that. I also really, really dig Hoppers. I am excited for Elio, though, although a little pessimistic about that just because of the director change coming so late. And I guess my one thing is that I wish we got an original film announcement from Disney Animation proper, because we got Frozen 3, Zootopia, and then we also know that Moana 2 is happening. But I wish, like, among those, we had one original film. But I guess after the huge failure of movies like Strange World, they're probably waiting a little longer before they put out another original Disney animation film, which I totally understand. Anywho, let's shift over to the box office real quick. Deadpool and Wolverine made $54.2 million. It has reached $1 billion at the global box office at this point, dropped only 44%. So it's continuing to do fantastically, which is awesome. It's a solid film to be doing well. It Ends With Us made $50 million in its opening debut, $80 million worldwide. Predicted to make 43 according to our combined sources of Deadline, Box Office Pro, and the numbers. So yeah, it overshot expectations. Great for me because I have this movie in my auction. But what sucks for me is that I also have Borderlands in my auction, which we're going to talk about momentarily. But yeah, I mean, It Ends With Us. Just, I'm not the biggest fan of the film. The longer I've sat with it, the less I've liked it. But I'm glad to see that we're just getting successes like this. You know, it's good for the industry, I think. Then you have Twisters, or I guess just to dive a little bit more into It Ends With Us, actually. It's weird. It's this movie very strongly geared towards a female audience with a very strong female perspective, but then adapted by a man. And the longer that has sat with me, the weirder it feels. So that's really my big thought in terms of this film. And I think go and see it for yourself. And you can kind of feel that. It's a little confusing. And the way it portrays certain situations in this film are just kind of odd because of that. It's also way too long. They could have definitely shaved off half an hour at least of this movie. Oh my god. So Twisters made $15 million this weekend, dropped only 34.2%, now has reached a $310.1 million worldwide total. It isn't doing too well internationally because of things like the Olympics competing with it, but I think overall Twisters is a success, even though it's not necessarily doing as well as the original. And what you also need to take into account is the fact that this is a movie like people are actually talking about that aren't just movie people. I've been to like just these family like birthday parties and things like that, and just random people who I know don't really watch that many movies are talking about Twisters among It Ends With Us and Deadpool and Wolverine, being like, I need to go and see this movie. Like, I know we need to go and see it, and I'm trying to figure out when I want to go and see this movie. Like, that's really cool that Twisters has found itself in that conversation, and it has done really well in the US. It just sadly is competing with the Olympics. So let's talk about Borderlands, because this, oh my god, this movie's just an absolute dumpster fire. It was predicted, according to our combined sources, to make 12.8 million, made 8.8, so shot 4 million under those predictions, which is pretty atrocious, to be honest, especially when this was a movie already predicted to bomb, and it bombed even harder than it was predicted to bomb. That just really shows how big of a bomb this movie really is. It just didn't look good. It looked like a ripoff of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it also screwed over the fan base. It was uninteresting to literally anyone and everyone. Only people who wanted to see this movie were deep fans of Cate Blanchett, people who would watch anything that she's in, and people that are just so optimistic where they were like, you know what? Even though this looks like garbage, let's just actually go and watch it and see, just in case we do like it. And also maybe people, like the few people out there who thought that the trailer looked good, you know? But this movie just does not appeal to a lot of people. It has visual effects that look like Spy Kids 3D crossed with Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, and both of those movies came out in the early 2000s. It is now mid 2000s. It is now the mid 2020s. So we are like 2 decades away from movies like that. And yet we have a movie like this that still looks like them. So ain't that something, right? Kind of all I got. It's just not that good. Despicable Me 4 made $8 million, now at an $807 million worldwide total, dropped 30.2%. I think that this is very interesting because it's still performing this well despite a digital release. To me, that's just very interesting. I'm wondering, like, do people just not care? Do people not know it's on digital? Just, I guess, how does that work? Like, in my mind, it seemed like a huge mistake to put Despicable Me on digital, but yet it still made $8 million. So maybe family movies, it's different because it feels like when, bigger movies go on digital, it does take the wind out of their sails. Or not like bigger, but like more adult movies. Like I'm wondering what Twisters is going to be like next weekend because it hits digital today. Like as you listen to this podcast, you could go and watch Twisters on iTunes or wherever you watch a premium video on demand movie. So yeah. Next up is Trap, made $6.7 million. With a $45.3 million total, dropped 56.5%. Even though I think this is the biggest drop in like the top 10 in terms of percentage, I'd still call that a win because it dropped under 60. And most movies like Trap that are just kind of that quality and just horror movies drop with a 6 or sometimes even a 7 in front of it. So Trap didn't do that. And I'd say that that's a solid success. Inside Out 2, it's at number 7, but still making $5 million with a 1.6 billion worldwide total. Just absolutely insane. And dropping only 27.2%, the smallest percentage drop. I mean, that's wild to me. Harold and the Purple Crayon made 3.1 mil, 15.5 worldwide total. It dropped 48.4%, so not a terrible drop for that either. Cuckoo underperformed a little bit, made 3 million. It was predicted, according to our combined sources, to make 3.6 million. So, oh well, to the slight underperformance, but overall, I would say that Cuckoo is a fine horror film and in some ways a pretty successful one. I just think it's paced pretty poorly, has just a plot that really shoots for the stars in ways that don't always land. It's just kind of odd and not like scary odd, just odd, and a little uncomfortable in ways that you don't necessarily go to watch a horror movie to make you uncomfortable in those kind of ways. I had people walk out in my theater. I totally understand why. I don't think it's the horror of it. I just think that it's the themes that this movie is going for. It's very uncomfortable. You also have Long Legs, made $2 million. I forgot to get the percentage drop for this one. And yeah, I'm sorry about that. But 90 million worldwide total. That's amazing. I mean, it's not going to cross 100 million, but this is a neon horror movie with Nick Cage as the biggest star attached to it. It's wild, but it's awesome. I love that. And then Dee Dee made $650,000 with a $1.65 million total. I wanted to include it, even though it's number 11, because it had this really solid $3,250 per theater average in 200 theaters. Putting it like comparing it with the rest of the top 10, that would give it the 4th best per theater average behind Twisters, It Ends With Us, and Deadpool and Wolverine. The only other movie out like in any theater right now with a better per theater average is Sing Sing, but that I think is in like 20 theaters or something around there. So it should have a better per theater average than Dee Dee that is in 200. And then out of the top 10 is A Quiet Place Day 1. I'd say that that was a pretty successful film and a good time to be out of the top 10 because next week we have another alien horror movie coming out, Alien Romulus. So one alien horror movie steps out, the next one steps in. I'm super excited for Alien Romulus. If you have been listening to these episodes, you know that Ethan and I do these movie auctions, and Alien is my number one. It was the movie that both of us were vying for. I think I spent what was it, like 85 out of my $120 on this movie, not like actual dollars. But yeah, like Alien to us is like much bigger than every other film that is coming out or came out in August. So it's going to be interesting to see if what we thought is going to actually be what happens, or were we overestimating Romulus? We'll find out. And I'm really excited to see it regardless. I just think Fede Alvarez seems to be a really good director. I'm hearing people calling it like CW Alien because of the young cast. I don't like that. I think give it a chance. Go and see it. Kaylee Spaney is fantastic and has only been in like good, interesting movies. Those being Priscilla, Civil War, and now Alien Romulus, like as a main star. So it seems like her or her agent, whoever makes those decisions, does a really good job at getting her onto like good movies. And it really does seem like Alien Romulus will be a continuation of that. And also, really any amount of money that Alien Romulus makes will be a success as long as it doesn't just severely underperform, because it was initially going to come out on Hulu, but then they changed that because of the outcry about Prey coming out on Hulu and not in theaters. So I think it's great because chances are it'll at least make like 150 worldwide when things are all said and done. And I think that that's solid enough to warrant a theatrical release rather than Hulu. That's like what, $150 million that you probably wouldn't have gotten in Hulu subscriptions alone. So I guess we'll find out if it even gets there or not. Who knows? With that all being said, thank you all for tuning in to this episode. Oh, actually, I can't remember if I mentioned this at the start of the episode, but starting next week, we are doing weekly releases. Releases on Thursday, not Friday, not Tuesday, Thursday. These are going to be combination episodes. I now do remember that I did talk about this at the start of the episode, so I'm not going to go as in depth as I did then, but get hyped. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm planning on having a lot more guests now that we go back to school. I have like a whole spreadsheet with guest ideas in terms of just friends that we have, and it's going to be a great time. And we still have the movie tournament and just a lot of fun things coming up. So yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode. We'll see you both, or not both. I don't know why I said both. We'll see you all in the next one. Take care.